Welcome back to another segment of Behind the Scenes of the Waltons. Today I'm taking more of your questions in another segment of Ask Judy. If you enjoy these, please do hit like and subscribe. This question is from Casey, who said, watching the episode today where Grandpa was trying to bring Miss Mamie out of the doldrums, and I realized how your series has shifted in my perspective. When first released, I was in my early 20s and could identify with John Boy and the older children. Now I'm Miss Mamie's age. It amazed me to realize how this series has the power in writing and acting to span 50 years with truth. When you watch these, do you view the stories with a different perspective created by age, or are the storylines taking you back to the age you were when filmed? Wow, what a wonderful comment and question. I sort of experienced the same thing. I get a mix when I watch it because I will watch it and look at myself at that age, and certain things will come up for me as memories about being that age or filming that, or how at times if I enjoyed a particular thing or I was uncomfortable with a particular thing. So I will remember aspects of at the time, but then I watch the overall story from a different perspective. Just I can try to, and for the most part, really enjoy it just as an audience and appreciate all of it and relate to the various different characters that I might not have related to when I was young and first watching it. You know, an appreciation for the older cast members and the beautiful work that they were doing and the stories that were being created and the craftsmanship behind it and the director's choices and all of those types of things, the art direction. So I think it has evolved with me as well. But I really love hearing from people about how they maybe didn't relate to it particularly early on, but now they found the show. And as they're older, they're loving it and appreciating it. So as we mature in our lives, I think our perspective about life expands. And so our view and perspective of the show does also. So I'm pleased to hear that. Thank you. Fun question here from Andrea Crash, who said, so out of all the Walton series and episodes, plus the Waltons movies, are there any lines that you had to say that stand out the most, that had real meaning, that you could quote back to us in a video without looking them up? Then explain why you remember them so well. Then have you used those lines in real life? There are things that stand out that come back to me all the time, like in some of the lines in The Homecoming. Like,
oh, you're all a bunch of pissants.
It was such a fun line. I had no idea what a pissant was. And I had no idea. The fact that Aaron goes running, Mama, Mary Ellen called us a bunch of pissants. And, and Elizabeth, I don't feel like a pissant. It was so innocently done that I never thought of it as being, oh my goodness, we shouldn't say that. And it always surprises me when there's viewers who feel like that shouldn't be said, because it wasn't a word I was familiar with as having anything other than I was saying something like, oh, you're stupid, or you're an idiot, or you're ignorant, or whatever. And, things that are not complimentary, but are not necessarily really offensive. But I can understand if there were people who their upbringing to them, that was a really offensive word. So apologies for that. But Earl Hamler wrote it, so I said it. Another line that always stands out to me is,
well, I wouldn't marry you, Curtis Willard, if you were the last man on earth.
Just because, again, iconic. It's you know where that's going, and the whole show has led up to that. So that one I thought was a real pivotal one that always stood out to me. In the Easter story, when with GW, where I say,
are you going to take me in your arms, or am I going to wham you?
And then, of course, the good nights. I think those are probably the most near and dear to my heart, because we did those for all those seasons. And they were that thing that brought the whole family together at the end of each show, and has that sense of connection that whenever I hear that or we do that it's always sort of this shared camaraderie. If we're doing a live meet and greet, or we're doing, a Zoom that's being broadcast or something, or an interview, that people want to hear that. And when we do those, there's always this special moment amongst us that we feel when that happens. I wouldn't say that any of these are things that I particularly use in real life, other than an occasional good night. But, we might, when the cast is together, we might throw out some lines or something like that. There's other lines of other people, other characters that sometimes the cast will share with each other, like Miss Mamie and Miss Emily with the "Don't you know?" It's just such a fun thing. Or in the homecoming with Cleavon Little as Hawthorne Dooley, when they're laughing and then he stops laughing and everything.
Miss Emily, Miss Mamie, we got to have some gas.
Gas.
It's just that always stands out to me as a line. And or Corbeth when in The Matchmaker.
I asked me to marry him. And I said yes.
I mean, those are just standout moments. So maybe share some of what you consider those standout lines or moments or things that always come to mind for you. This is from Dry Cracker, who was talking about the episode The Prodigals. And at one point he said, "The Western street scene reminds me of scenes from Gunsmoke and other Westerns where you find saloons, blacksmithing, etc. Have a question for you. Can you go over the roles that an actor may have on their team? I'm thinking agent, manager, publicist, stylist, etc. Just wondering who is working with for the actors to help keep them working and camera ready." So it depends on the actor and who they feel they need on their team. Actors pretty consistently have an agent. A manager may or may not be part of the team, or they might have a manager but not an agent, or but more typically an agent but not a manager. And then a publicist is optional, but typically when you start doing more work, it's good to have a publicist because it can help expand your visibility. And that publicist, like we had a publicist for CBS when we did the Waltons who booked the cast or whatever, but that was specifically to promote the Waltons. It wasn't designed as a way to promote the actor, whereas my publicist was there focused to help promote me beyond the Waltons and help me be visible and therefore create more demand, hopefully, for my work from other areas. And then I never had like a personal hairstylist or a stylist for my wardrobe or things like that. I would bring somebody in if I was doing, say, my photo shoot for my new headshots. Then I would bring in someone to do my hair and makeup, and sometimes someone to help me work out what clothing I was going to wear to create the different looks that we wanted. Sometimes just the photographer would help with that. Sometimes my agent or manager or publicist would say, "Hey, we could use this kind of a shot." So I'd have those conversations with those people before I went to do new headshots to go, "What do you need? What kind of things are you submitting me for?" Usually I needed a business shot, a professional shot, because I played a lot of doctors and lawyers and things like that. Then you'd need the kind of casual mom. And then maybe this kind of more commercial, upbeat, cheery, just nice, as authentic as possible smile, which I always found hard to do with a still. Taking pictures is not my strength or something I really enjoy. So it can be tough to feel natural and comfortable. You get kind of frozen after a while. Smile, and your eyes glaze over and you have to kind of shake it off and start over to try and stay present and stay looking like there's actually thoughts going on. One of my favorite photographers to work with he'd ask me to have specific thoughts, or as opposed to, well, look stern or whatever, but he'd give me thought as if he was directing me as a director with what what the thoughts going through the actor's mind. And I found that very helpful. And I think he realized that as actors, that we're kind of used to that, to creating a mood and a look. And then he would just keep shooting and hopefully catch something along the way that really conveyed that well. So that's, like big stars. Yeah, they have people who style them for, any public outing, any publicity thing they're doing, what are they going to wear on a talk show and all those kinds of things. So I was never at that level where that made sense for me to have. So I pretty much was on my own most of the time. So for better or worse. Anyway, fun question. Thank you for joining me for this segment of Ask Judy. I'll be back with more behind the scenes of the Waltons, more Ask Judy, hopefully more special guests. Thanks for watching.